I'll tell you something. One cool thing about winning the Super Bowl is that when you go back to Notre Dame, you're kind of in this club of Super Bowl winners, guys who look at you and say, hey, you've continued the tradition. Guys like Joe Montana, guys like Justin Tuck, Ryan Grant, and the many others who have won a Super Bowl in the NFL. But there may not be a tougher player at Notre Dame who then went on to win a Super Bowl than our next guest. He's a 9-year veteran of the NFL. He was a team captain and there for the 1993 game of the century. Please welcome Marc Edwards. What's up, Marc?
Wow, I got chills with that introduction, Ryan. You know, I felt like I was coming out of the tunnel again and onto that field. Just chills down the body. I appreciate that, my friend.
Hey, man, you're Mr. Ohio in 1992, man. You're the man, and you've been so kind to not just me, but really all the former players. I remember you spoke to us when I was still playing under Charlie Weiss. I mean, you've come back and you've given so much. So it's an honor to have you here today, my friend.
You know what? It's really important to me to come back and talk to all these young men. You know, Notre Dame has a history of the older guys taking care of the younger guys. It starts when you're a player. You know, the seniors got to show the freshmen the way that Notre Dame, they're supposed to behave at Notre Dame, what's expected of Notre Dame, and what they're supposed to carry on tradition-wise at Notre Dame, and that never stops. If my experience can help some of these guys that are currently on the roster right now, my experience going through the draft process, the experience going through finding an agent, you know, things like that. I'm going to come back. I'm going to tell them what my experiences were. So hopefully it's going to help them through that process as well.
Yeah, and you tap rings with us fellow champions. That's always a cool moment. Hey, what's up, Marc?
Always gotta have the big boy on. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about one of your experiences at Notre Dame. 1993, you beat Florida State. We're not going to talk about what happened after, but you've been there not just in college, but in the NFL. What do the Irish have to do to make sure they succeed this weekend?
You know, it's always tough coming off a big win like that. There was so much buildup for it for weeks, and even Kelly even said himself that they were looking forward to that Clemson game a little bit over the past few weeks. You saw that with a couple lackluster performances against Louisville and Georgia Tech. But like you said earlier, I was listening to you earlier. You got to come out with a fire early in the week in practice. You have this big win. You can't come out with a hangover, so to speak. I remember in 1993, even before the Florida State game, we had our big rivalry against USC. We just beat Michigan a few weeks ago in a highly ranked matchup, and all of a sudden, Holtz changed practice at the end or early in the week. So the second practice where we're on pads, all of a sudden, last period, he picks it up, and all of a sudden we're going ones versus ones and live tackling. We're 4 or 5 weeks into the season. He picked up the intensity because he knew that, hey, we got these big games coming up and we can't get just satisfied with where we're at. We got to take it to another level. And hopefully that's what those guys did this week, because that's what they needed to do.
Well, you also did that in the NFL. You won the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. I believe it was the first Super Bowl of Tom Brady. Yes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Walk us through what it's like to be in the huddle with Tom Brady and then celebrate a Super Bowl championship with him after.
Well, you know what? I'm going to talk about the whole season here real quick, because the year before the Patriots were 5-11. And then we get there. Drew Bledsoe was the first $100 million quarterback. They just re-signed him that year. He was the franchise. We're 0-2. He gets hurt at the end of the second game against the New York Jets. Mo Lewis hits him, and he knocks him out, pretty much for the season. He comes back late in the season, but in steps Brady. We're 0-2. We just lost a franchise quarterback. They went 5-11 the year before. I think we're going winless, right? So all of a sudden we kind of get on a little roll. We get to 3-3. We get to 5-5, and then we just kind of went on a magical run to win the Super Bowl. And what was interesting about that team was we were number 18 in the league in offense, number 15 in the league in defense, so kind of middle of the pack, but we were a great special teams team. We were top 5 in red zone scoring, top 5 in turnover differential, and red zone scoring on both sides of the ball. So we found ways to win. every game from about game 10 on, we scored either a special teams or a defensive touchdown in every one of those games, except the Raiders game, the Snow Bowl. But it was just a great, great group of guys. And at that time, we didn't ask Tom Brady to win the games for us. You know, his typical line that year in 2001, he'd throw for 200 yards. He'd be 16 out of 22, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. We'd run for 150 yards, and we'd play great defense and special teams, and really great in the red zone particularly. So, you know, at that time, Tom Brady was just lucky to be on the team, if you can believe that. But once we got through training camp and everything else, he really stepped up and earned his keep. And I mean, gosh, you can see what he's done ever since. So it was fun to be part of that beginning.
Well, you are part of the tradition of excellence at Notre Dame. Final question for you. What are some of the memories that you think about often when you think about playing at Notre Dame?
It's my former teammates, the times in the locker room, the times in the dorm, the times in training camp. We were the first group ever to go to Culver for training camp. And this is back before air conditioning and all that other stuff at Culver. We talk about sleeping in the skating rink, in the ice rink at Culver, because it was the only place that was cool. The first night we were there, I had a box fan in the window, and I put my bed aligned with the window. And it just so happened that there was a horrible thunderstorm that night. So I got absolutely soaked from the fan and the rain coming in on me, right? So I didn't sleep at all. I had a miserable experience. So we all ended up starting sleeping in the ice rink, and we had a great time, and you know we really bonded. But I got a text thread with 7 of my former teammates. We all graduated together, played together, went through all that hell that Lou Holtz put us through at the time. The yelling, the screaming, you know, all that good stuff. But it's just being on the field with the guys, being in the locker room with the guys, going through games like, you know, obviously I was part of the Florida State game, but I played a minor role in that game. It was the USC game in '95 that it was really one of the defining wins for the guys in my class. So, you know, when we talk about, you know, those experiences and, you know, just being part of all of that with those guys is really what I remember the most.
Well, my friend, you are a champion on and off the field. I can't wait to see you and give you a big old hug and tap rings post-corona. But thanks for joining us, Marc. He's Marc Edwards, Notre Dame great.
Hey, appreciate it. Always good to come in and talk a little bit Notre Dame football. Go Irish.